Yeah. Hello, well rising, well rising. So actually, I forgot to put on these Bluetooth here. So let's do that. Let's see what happens. Get it on. Okay, get the Bluetooth. I find that it's clear sound for the recording. There we go. Something worked. Oh, no, it's okay. Let's try it again. Let's try it again, y'all. Patience. Okay, I figured it out. Well, rising, everybody. So we're just going to get into prayer.
Mm.
Um, I'm so happy that my friend Brooke is here and she's here to join us. And we were just connecting our sons on Roblox, and it was just I feel very grateful right now for their new friendship. I feel
Mm.
really grateful for the connection that we're making as community and slowly building
Mm.
that community and expanding. And I'm really grateful for you, Brooke,
Mm.
bringing us into your family. And then we bring you into our family, and just like, yeah, I
Well,
love you.
love party.
Yeah. So I'm just feeling really, really grateful right now. Oh, can you close the freezer? It's beeping. Thank you. The freezer is yelling at me. Hold on. Yeah. But hey, let me finish my recording right now, okay? Thank you, my love. So I was just saying, I'm feeling really, really grateful right now, and I just want to say thank you to the
Mm.
creator of all things. I want to say thank you to our angels, our spirit guide team. Oshun is coming up right now. Thank you,
Mm.
thank you, thank you. Thank you, Buddha. Buddha came up to me the moment I woke up this morning. I felt to call Buddha to just guide the day today. And Krishna. And then I'm hearing Mary right now, Mary as well. And I said Jesus, but I just said Jesus this morning as I was hearing the others ascended masters. But Jesus seems like it feels like Jesus doesn't want to be at the forefront today or right now. I
Mm.
feel like I'm hearing Buddha and Krishna and Mary. So that's interesting. It feels like almost like Jesus is giving everybody else the stage. That's kind of what it feels like within me. It's interesting, though still heavily present. So thank you, Jesus. And I just got confirmation about that. But again, I'm just feeling really grateful. So I just want to give gratitude and praise and thanks to the Creator, to the angels. Um, Thank you guys for new friendships, for deepening connection, deepening mutually soul nourishing connection with community, with friends, with loved ones. Thank you for expanding
Mm.
our tribe. Um, Thank you for expanding our tribe. And um, thank you for inviting us, all of us, into um, better understanding of what it is to love within community, love within friendships, and therefore then being in deeper love with ourselves. Thank you for giving us the help wherever we need in that area, in that aspect. Thank you for clearing and healing and helping any misunderstandings that um, anyone might be experiencing within the prayer faith circle tribe, anyone watching this at the right and perfect time, whatever you're going through, whatever's happening, I just call upon the divine to just help create clarity, bring clarity, healing, forgiveness, wherever needed, if at all needed, within communities, within families, within friendships. Um, because we know that time is so short and um, it's more important for us to just share our love, even if not agreeing on everything. How can we be even more accepting of each other as we are? Um, and how can we even more so be accepting of ourselves as we are, truly as we are? So then we can truly understand how to be accepting of each other as we are. I thank you so much for blessing us with connection, with love, with friendship, with community. And please surround us with your heavenly white light of protection. Surround this faith prayer circle. Surround all the projects that we're doing. Um, every prayer warrior, faith prayer warrior, surround them with your white light of protection. Surround our families and friends with your white light of protection. And when I say protection, not that there's anything to protect against. We're not focusing on that, but rather just keep us safe. Um, keep us safe and help us feel safe in everything that we do, everywhere we go. Um, I'm hearing right now to mention to protect our mental health. Yahweh, please protect our mental health, our children's mental health, our community's mental health, emotional health, our physical health, our spiritual health, and our financial health and creative health. Because we know there are quote unquote like spiritual attacks that happen here or there, or propaganda, or just a bunch of things that come from marketing TV and all this other stuff. Misinformation is what I just heard the Spirit say, a bunch of misinformation that comes from all kinds of many directions. So I do ask for protection for me, for my family, for my friends, for Brooke, for her family and friends, for our whole community, everybody we know, that psychic protection. And for the protection for our mental health and emotional health, just to ensure that we get clear truths always, that the truth is always very clear and in focus of our awareness. And please give us the understanding, the capability, the confidence, and the bravery it takes to speak truth consistently, regardless of what is happening or the challenge against the truth that is happening, to help maintain the integrity of truth, um, so that love can always continue to expand. And thank you for trusting us with that task, and then also helping us just maintain truth with ourselves so that we can do that with all else. Wow, there's so much coming through. And the last few days, has awareness has been coming to me about being in control of your thoughts. Like Spirit has really been, I've been really working on this for the last few years, but I've really doubled down on it in a much more clear way, um, by controlling thoughts. Because I don't know if people who believes in mind control and if there's things like that going on, but if anyone feels like they're experiencing anything of the sort, or I know I've ran into people who've said that they feel like they experience some of that, where there is, whether I don't know if it's whether entities or just, like government, machines doing something or whatever. And but also not to put, I'm not saying this to put fear or to put um, conspiracy out there in anybody's mind as well. My intention is to share that we have full control of our own mental health and wealth. We have full control of that. There is no one, nothing that can control our willpower, period. And this is something that I felt to remind us of because it's been coming up to me in my spirit the last few days. Um, and I've been feeling really strongly to just practice even more focused for the like whole day rather than just a period of the day in meditation, right? Rather than just for 10 minutes or an hour of meditation, I've been feeling more inclined to practice throughout the day, intentionally um, bringing positive thought and affirmation out of my mind. And I feel like Spirit's been just reminding me, and so then I can remind others that we have full control of our thoughts. There is no one and nothing that can take our willpower from us. And to give the power to somebody by saying, oh, there's mind control, or there's this going on, or that going on, or even if we, spirits, that is giving the power to somebody else. And we could always say yes, we could always say no. And I'm seeing 444 right now for some reason, even though it's not even 4 in the morning or 4 in the
I'm hearing Maya Angelou's words in her book, Letters to My Daughter. She says, she tells a story and she says, words are things and they stick to the walls of your house.
afternoon.
Mm.
I love that. I love that. Words are things and they stick to the walls of your house. That is so beautiful. Um, and that is so true because it's like, when we speaking affirmation, and
Mhm.
I definitely want to hear more of what you want to say on this too. But this is a huge topic that's just coming through to me psychically, it feels right now. So I want to put it out. But um, in the time that we're in right now in society and the world, and with so many people, quote unquote, awakening and becoming more aware of our psychic, of our physical, magical capabilities. And then with the speed of that awareness, there's also, I've noticed this pushback against what truth is as well in the physical realm, in the matrix, right? So the more that truth is becoming clear, the more that the opposite is really pushing against, trying to say no and trying to gaslight us. Like, well, I know what I'm feeling. You get, Anyways, so I noticed this. So I feel to say, and I'm really feeling intuitively like this is going to be heard by someone younger, by a lot of young people who are really like this new generations, our kids even, they're so much more psychically aware earlier on than we are, and have been. And because of that, there's also, they say with everything, there's an opposite. There has to be an opposite. So there's like just as much awareness, there's just as much pushback on that
Mhm.
truth. So I feel to just remind whoever needs to hear this, you control you. You have the full willpower over you. And why is this a fact? The last thing I'm gonna say on this, why is this a fact? Because the divine made that so. That is literally the one rule, I would say that is like universal, that every being, we all, especially human beings, we have full dominion over our own soul. No one can take you over unless you give them the power to do so, period. And some people don't like to hear that because it requires them to take full responsibility and take full control of their life. And so I just want to say that to start the conversation. Anyways, love you guys. So how do you feel about this, Brooke? Oh,
Um,
right now, by the way, real quick, we're having cacao. We happen to both make cacao this morning. So if anybody loves cacao, you're
mm.
welcome to join us. Grab your tea, grab your cacao.
Um, I find this very much in the flow of spirit. That recollection of letters to my daughter. I just love listening to her book because it's her voice, speaking to women as if all women were her daughters, which speaks to this sense of community. And someone had said something in her house at a party, and she walked over and handed him his coat and said, "It's time for you to leave now. Your words are things, and I don't need them sticking to the walls of my household." And that
Ooh.
level of like fierce grace and fierce, like it's a strong, sweet, graceful fire of a boundary. And that's just personally something I've been working with is like, how can my fire be more graceful and aligned with truth? And how can I get my words more aligned with truth, especially in this like world of social media and the political rhetoric that is stirring? How can I not get lost in it and continue to anchor every conversation into truth? Um, and like one of the conversations I had with a bunch of men at work the other day, um, they were talking about our current political situation, and I was like, why do we judge our leaders by anything other than the way that they protect our children. That should be the first tenet. Are they protecting our children fiercely? Is the status of our children in this nation as a whole improving? And if not, that is not a leader that I want. And like it mic dropped the room and all the men went dead silent. And because I was like, that is the measure of a man to me. And they couldn't argue it, right? They can argue all their political views they want, but they couldn't argue that truth. And so I just think it's important that, and then like spells, words are spells, right? So like you told your children this morning while rising, like that is the change of the spell of the good sadness of the day that, they that we've been taught, and analyzing the way we use their words and or use their words every day and what they mean, and just continually tweaking the dials so that the programming on our children and the people around us um, are an upgrade from that which we inherited, and that is what we are supposed to do and that they are supposed to do after us. That is what all of our grandmothers and great grandmothers did, is continue to anchor into that perpetual growth and improvement.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. Oh my gosh, thank you for sharing that
Mm,
that viewpoint. And that is a good point of judging the leaders or even knowing how to trust the leaders based off of how do they protect our children? How do
mm,
they? And I was going to even say also our elderly, how do they protect the weaker ones of our
yeah.
tribe? That says a lot about who a man is, who the leaders are, period. I totally agree. So thank you for putting that out there because
Mhm,
somebody's going to see this and it's going to click something and inspire a ripple effect of ensuring that that happens. And so it is. Who wants to make an
mhm,
agreement with me? Go ahead and make it now. And it's
mhm,
happening now. And like she just said, words are powerful. So even as you saw, I just spoke out something. I just decided that something's going to be. I took an agreement. I actually clinged
mhm,
on to the energy that she just put out, that Brooke just put out about this idea of judging the leaders or choosing the leaders based on their protecting of the weaker ones, of the more vulnerable, not weaker ones, the more vulnerable. And I agreed with that. I am so powerful. She is so powerful.
mhm,
Individually, we are so powerful. And that's part of the intention of this prayer circle. She's a prayer warrior on her own.
mhm,
I'm a prayer warrior on my own. You guys are prayer warriors on your own.
mhm,
And so we do so much work speaking our prayers behind closed doors in the way that we do, right? But like I said, and for those of you who've seen previous videos before, when I
mhm,
did a meditation and was inspired to do this, I heard the Spirit say that I have many closet prayer warriors, but
mhm,
I want you to bring them together. So this is the point of this, to bring our intentions, our power together, because then it's amplified. It is like so amplified. Okay. And what I just spoke out, I spoke
mhm,
an agreement to that we will choose our leaders
mhm,
based off of how they um, protect our more vulnerable people. And it is so. I spoke that. Watch this happen. And this is happening now. I'm speaking it, right? So I want whoever is going to be watching this, as this young person, whoever it is that's maybe confused and trying to find your way, uh, just my it's about intention first of all. How do you utilize your brain power, your focus, your energy? It's about intention. It all comes from the heart for sure, even more so because the heart can be deceiving. It comes from your soul, let's say
mhm,
your soul, okay? And so from your soul, because the heart is still a part of the body, your soul is nothing to do with the body whatsoever. So your full intention of your soul is what then commands the heart. It sends a message to the heart about this is what I want to happen. The desire, it creates desire in the heart, which then starts moving this energy in the body, right? Your intention of your soul brings energy into the heart, which cultivates energy in the body. Then your heart brings that message and some of that energy to your mind. And your mind is a tricky one because our mind can change the intention or the trajectory of where that energy is directed. So that's where yoga, that's where meditation comes in. That's where community comes in to help you remember who you are if you lost it. These things like this. And so the mind, if you don't have good practice over this muscle, because the mind is a muscle.
Mhm.
So if we don't practice meditation, which is basically just practicing focus, that's like the bare minimum foundations of meditation. There's so many different levels, but the bare minimum foundations of meditation is practicing focusing your mind on what you want it to focus on, not what the body tells you to focus on, not what outside of you tells you to focus on, not what the parents, not what the government, not with anything propaganda, with a Chanel ad tells you to focus on. Okay. It it's about you being intentional about your prayers, about your words, about your thoughts. And then when you combine that, the energy of your soul that put it into your heart with that intention, you hold that intention with your mind. Now, here's the thing. When the heart and the mind are in agreement,
Mhm.
just like when two or more are in agreement, it becomes so. When the heart and the mind are in agreement, it becomes so. That's how powerful you are. We are, period. And then not only does it become so, but now it then transfers throughout the rest of the body. The energy transfers throughout the rest of the body, and the body starts to move and take action on that intention, right? So now the body starts to move and take action on the intention. The intention that we just made an agreement on about having leaders, male leaders that are like this, is a beautiful intention. So what's the action that is coming out of my heart? Oh, just already I feel the action that's going to happen. I have boundaries, even more so. That's, you know, who I will support and who I won't support as far as a leader, a male leader, or. So now I have an understanding within me. I will not support somebody who is not protecting children. I will support, who is protecting children. So that's that in the action. And then I also will share with my words that same message the way she just shared with me. I'm going to share it with others, with other women in other communities that I'm in and
Mhm.
other things I do. So that's taking action on this heart soul connection, mind connection. What happens when the heart and the mind are not in agreement? Then we have anxiety. Then we have fear. Then we have this confusion, which most likely is why somebody who is watching this in the future is here. Then we have this confusion on uh, our thoughts and what's going on within us about what is truth, about what is truth. And so I wanted to ask you actually, Brooke, how do you know truth? How do you know truth? Like,
Mhm.
what and how do you know truth? And then what was your journey to understanding the truth within you? And, how did you get to even finding out what is truth in you? Like, how did you get to understanding the voice of that?
Um, I think that I was luckily blessed. I came from a very religious, patriarchal, misogynistic family. But I was blessed to grow up in Hawaii. Um, and I think sitting on the beach in stillness, I didn't know what I was doing. But sitting on the beach and listening to the wind and the ocean and just sitting in that place was actually a practice that I didn't know what I was doing at the time. And I think that growing up in that place, growing up in that place allowed me to really feel be and see and kind of in more recent lifetime like the colonization and what colonization did to Hawaii was very apparent. The language, the death of the language like happened with my best friend's grandmother, and that's why the language and the culture didn't continue, and it was just so still alive. And the anger, and the pain was still so alive, and you knew what happened. They literally like stole the monarchy from the queen, and that was alive in the history and alive in schools, and there was still some like remnants of culture, so you could I could feel it into this space where like my family is singing this, but my whole body tied to this land that I was born on says this. And I think that at some point I had to find center and lose center and then find center again a bunch of times. Um, but in the end, I go back to like that my little girl knew, right? My little girl knew that the story of Jesus and the story of love and the story of compassion was the
Sorry,
truth
sorry
in
to
my.
interrupt you. When you
Okay.
say your little girl, you mean, what do you mean
My
by your
little
little girl?
girl inside of me, right? Like you get all these stories about what a woman should be and what you're supposed to be and what your dad wants you to be, and all these things conflict with the things you learned in school, the things you see on TV, and you're like all those noises like you were talking about swirl, and anchoring into like what what you know in your body to be true. And like I knew in my body that like love and compassion were the answer. And I remember like speaking to my grandfather and saying like, hey, if like people need to be saved in order to go to heaven, like if that's your story, then I don't buy this. Like I bought Sunday school and Jesus, and my whole body knew that that was true, but all this other stuff you came with when I got older is not, like not here. My body says no. And so then that process of like slowly allowing those connections, unfortunately, with my family to die and to compost. And I'm still, I think, in the process some of like composting what those relationships were, where the value was, right? We tend to like throw the baby out with the bathwater, and really looking at like, okay, recently when my grandfather went into the ICU, right, before I saw you last, um, I was journaling, and I was journaling about, you know, what I learned from my family line, and I was like, I'm done with all that. And then the next question in my journal was, what gems are there that you gleaned to hold on to, right? And I was like, nothing. And then my grandfather went in the ICU, and I ended up sitting with him, um, and talking to him and being really tender, and talking to all the nurses because they were sitting in there for 24 hours. And I left the hospital realizing that as much as my grandfather has told me that I'm going to hell, um, that his little boy dream is the same as my little girl dream inside of myself. His little boy inside of him wants to see his entire family, and everyone for that matter, in his concept of the world, get along in one place. And he just believes that the only way that will happen is to save everybody and have it happen in heaven. And I believe that we can do the work and have it happen here. But our dreams are actually the same. And that was like just such a beautiful gem to mine out. And I think if I have anything to share uh, in terms of advice, it would be to surrender to what is in front of you, right? What is in front of you has come to you, whether it's someone in the ICU or the pain with your mother or the anger you feel at your father. Like, sit with that. Like, that is in front of you to teach you something. And the less I've run from those things, the more beauty I've found and the more truth I've found.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Um, wow, there's so many things that you gave in there that I really appreciate. one thing I do want to acknowledge real quick first is the Lord's Prayer,
Mhm.
because I'm going to say the Lord's Prayer because what you said about your grandpa, um, which I wanted to ask you about that too. We'll talk about it off camera, but um, your grandpa's dream, right? It's a child's dream, and your child's dream being the same but different.
Mhm.
That immediately brought up to me the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who is in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, the glory, forever and ever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Yahweh.
I think that I was invited recently. I haven't done it, but I was invited. I've done something like it. It wasn't the Lord's Prayer, it was another prayer. And it was like to take the words of those prayers and tweak them to a way that fits you, right? Like so I think like for me when you said that, like our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, like to me that is the beginning of disconnection, right? That you are outside of me. Like I like the divine lives in each of us, and this idea that like God is separate and not living and embodied in the person in front of you, regardless of the color of their skin or the color of their hair, or if they got a cattail, right?
Yeah.
What like the divine is here and alive, and it is not separate, and it is not in the sky, and it is not to be met somewhere else. And so like instead of those things where like you go like that doesn't resonate with me, like what parts of it do, right? Like there are pieces of that prayer that totally settle in my body, and there are pieces of that prayer that make me go not for me. And I think that speaks back and loops right back to your piece about words. Like we're all in a different evolution, and we're supposed to be in different evolutions, dancing the spiral of our growth as humanity, as individuals, like vines coiling up a tree to sunshine, right? And honoring that place and where you're at, and that today these words mean this to me, and a month from now those words might change, and like allowing less rigidity. And I think that's kind of the beauty of the prayer that the prayer space that you create here, because we've all been taught these prayers that like say this on repeat. That is on repeat, like disconnects you from living a prayer, from embodying a prayer, from feeling the prayer and the love that wants to come through you from the divine every single day. And that's why this is so beautiful, right? You're just let's intuit a prayer and let it come through today. And like, yes, I'm about that.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I do want to get back to the topic that we had in a minute, but on that note, real quick, um, what you're saying is so true. I read it the way it is written down for a
Mhm.
reason, for those who are new to it, even to just hear the original way that it's written here. But when I read this prayer or I say this prayer to myself, every day it's different. And it's all about, just like you said, it's all about how I feel and how does it feel to me. But I feel like this prayer, the way it's written and the way prayers are written, they're generally just a skeleton. They're just a guide. We don't have to follow it word for word unless it feels correct that day, right? It's just a guide on how to, almost like, you have a guide on how to write a paragraph, how to write a paper. Okay, you have to have your introduction, your meat and potatoes, and then you have to have your conclusion. That's the way you, now what you write about, it doesn't really matter. Okay. Hello, hello. And so, this is really what she's saying there, right? This is what she's saying that uh, whoever's watching and resonates with this or is getting some wisdom, taking these golden nuggets we're putting out, really, really hold them dear and understand that you are the master. You are the master of your reality. And the more I've realized this, the more, oh my gosh, I've been putting things into practice and experiencing literally magic, okay? What feels like magic, anyways. Um, but one thing that she said with this prayer, Our Father that's in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That hallowed be thy name thing too, never really like sat right with me. When I say that first one, but it gives me a guide of what really is needed to be said when you're first saying that prayer. It's just saying praise to the divine. Praises to the divine. You're just introduced, like when you say hi to your friend, hey, so it's kind of like that, right? That's really all it is. And just giving kind words. Oh, what's so beautiful? Stuff like this. That's what that means. And just that's the way that they said it in the past. Hallowed be thy name. Basically they're saying, holy is your name. And this concept of what she's saying about Father, about God being outside of us, that's a whole nother thing that to go into for sure. But for me, I could just share with you, and there's many ways to do this. Find what resonates well with you, whoever's listening. But the way that I like to do this is I acknowledge that the creation is everything. The creation is within me and outside of me. And so uh, some days I feel to call on the creation that is outside of me. Um, and I say Father specifically. Sometimes I'll say God, sometimes I'll say Baba, sometimes I'll say Mama or Yaya for the divine feminine. So depending on what I'm feeling that day, what I need most. Um, for me, I say Father because it helps me call in the energy of the divine fatherly nature that I need in that moment to envelop me, to wrap me with that fatherly love that I didn't have, right? And so it helps me connect in my brain, in my energy, my nervous system in that way. And then some days I feel to call on the Father or the God in heaven from from a place and intention of within me. I call on the master that is within me, that capability that's already deep within my cells that Jesus understood and many other masters. Everything that they understood is already within us. We all have that information encoded in our DNA, encoded in our nervous systems, encoded in our souls. All we have to do is just get it activated, have it activated, or activate it ourselves. And so I call on the master within me for that help, or I even call on, and this is for me, where Buddha and Krishna and that kind of understanding comes in because they understand that I am the Buddha. I am the Krishna. I am this. We are this. She's in us. It's all us. So that kind of calling upon, and I'll call upon that in this prayer. So then the information, the wisdom unlocks throughout my day. And all of a sudden I'll have all these realizations and this information that pops up that is truth. So going back to that point about what my question was, how does she know truth? I wanted to share, how do I know truth? Thank you for sharing. You mentioned that you know truth, and let me know if you have to go because I know we're going over time, but this is juicy. This is good information. One of the things that she mentioned about how she knows what truth is, how she came to know what truth is. One, trial and error. She went out of alignment and in alignment, out of alignment, but she paid attention to how it felt in her body. Okay, so that's something to take note. How does it feel in your body? Because your body is a guide. Your body is a tool. And there's many practices that help you understand and practice listening to the language of the body. But yoga is one of my most favorite. Yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong. These are some of my most favorites, especially yoga, because it literally is a practice that teaches you that the practice is practicing listening to you, practicing listening to your body, your soul, your spirit, because the word yoga means union. So what is union? And when it means union, it means the connection, the agreement, like we were saying earlier, of the mind, the body, and the spirit. And one could also call this the Holy Trinity. When these are in agreement, when these are in union, when they're in friendship, then you have more flow, you have more happiness, more joy, better health, all those things. It also means when these are in divine flow, um, or just in general, connection with the creator of all things. So it's really, connection with the inner divine and the outer divine, but in a relationship of love, of gratitude. Um, and so it's really interesting when we talk about how do we figure out truth? How do we know what is truth in this time, in this age where like truth is just being challenged? And yet we know that truth, one indicator too, we said the body, you look at how does your body feel, but another indicator is truth stands the test of time, period. Like anything that is truth, it stays and remains. It does not crumble and fall. And there is a theory, I noticed this pattern in my life too, that every 7 years, and this is not even just a theory, scientifically, every 7 to 10 years, our cells literally go through a full regeneration, a full cycle of becoming a whole new cell. It becomes a whole new cell. So literally every 7 to 10 years, it's about seven. And it's like the 8, 9, 10 is more like the integration of this change. But every 7 years, our cells are changed, and we are literally a totally a new person than we were 7 years ago. Not just figuratively, like literally. And so, in that way, it's really interesting because um, when we talk about truth, every 7 years, I notice truth gets challenged. In marriage, I know my marriage didn't stand my ex marriage, my previous marriage, um, fell to this truth. And it was so interesting because it's like when you, for a marriage, there's something called the 7 year itch. They call it the 7 year itch. And not even just a marriage, it's really like any intention that you and of something you cultivated where you whether you built a business, you built a practice, you built a friendship, you built whatever relationship, the foundation that you built, if it is not a strong and sturdy foundation, and then how you maintain it thereafter, once that 7 year comes, and I don't know all the facts and details about it, but I know energetically, and I know this pattern, energetically, it gets tested and it has to go through the test of time. One could also call this Kali energy, right? Kali in the Hindu, what I've just learned recently, she is time and everything is and that energy that severs anything that is not real, anything that is not truth, period. And it's so interesting. And who knows the different timelines of this, but I, on a minor scale, every 7 years, things can get tested. And for my previous marriage, it was a house of cards that was built. So sure enough, that 7th year, it blew down. Some marriages, some relationship, it's not that it's fake or wasn't a strong foundation. Some of them, it was a sturdy enough foundation, but that 7th year, it starts to get rocky, and it starts to see, do you really want to continue this? How bad do you want it? And it invites, that 7 year invites relationships to hold on stronger to each other, to become, to create an even better foundation for the next 7 years to evolve. It invites each party to evolve and change what didn't work. But both people have to be on board with that. For my previous marriage, both people weren't, there was a change happening within me. And, my partner at the time didn't agree on that same change with me. So we were just going in different directions. Who's right, who's wrong, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. It's we were just not on the same, we are not in alignment. Our truths were not in alignment. One could argue, I would say, that I was more in the direction of following my truth 100%. And he was not at the time. He was still kind of an illusion of unknowingly um, listening and kind of going with the false truth that was around him and within him. And so usually that kind of, when we talk about how to know truth, how to know what is truth within you? Well, I was feeling in my body a bunch of changes and shifts. Some things were not resonating in my body. It was like, no, this does not feel right. And as women, we're strong with this. Do you have something you want to share?
Yeah, I think that you just really hit on how you know truth in your body, right? You hit this place of like, oh, oh, there's resistance, right?
Mhm.
And instead of staying the same, instead of continuing the pattern, you got deeper into listening. And the deeper you get into listening, the more you are willing to just
Rip away whatever doesn't.
break open, shed whatever doesn't serve you. And that may mean losing. So, like, fear comes up. I think that might also be a guide that you're on to truth. Is it when you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to tear apart my family? Okay, right. Okay, so what's true here, right? And there's the work where there is resistance.
Mhm.
And there is the growth in humanity where there is resistance. Instead of shying away from it, you meet it with a patient listening. And I think you are a wonderful example of someone who stays in that space when everyone else would run for the hills. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
sit right here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I honor you for that.
Thank you, Mama. Yeah, I appreciate that. It's true because that feeling for me, it's so strong in the body if I don't listen to truth. And when truth is guiding me to make a change that creates fear in my body or brings up a fear. And where does fear come from? The mind. Fear is not in your heart and not in your spirit. It is not our natural way. So there's another way right there. I hope somebody can take bullet points of this for something at some point, but there's another thing of how to know truth. Okay, because we talked about it, it, if what's coming up in you is a fear, that's not truth. Okay, and more so if let me say that more correctly. If fear is coming up in you when you are looking at the truth that is raising up inside of you or coming to your awareness, notice where the fear is coming from. Take a look at your body, at your heart, at your nervous system. More than likely, you'll notice it's coming from the mind. That fear is coming from the mind, or it's coming from outside of you. Other people trying to convince you that their fear is the correct thing and why and whatever and is the truth. So for me at the time with that relationship, my soul wanted to evolve into really diving deep into listening to truth. And my partner wasn't ready for that yet. And so we ended up splitting. Now, outside for the last 3 years of that connection, coming up to the seventh, I didn't listen. I was very, very young. So I was listening to outside people, spheres, oh, heavily Christian people, but I'm not saying that that's any Christians are bad or negative or anything, but they were just more on this kind of idea of you stay for the kids. You stay for the kids. And because I was so young and impressionable, I didn't have a sense of understanding who I am and how to know truth and all that stuff, or even how to speak up for myself. I didn't know how to have boundaries, all that stuff. I listened to others because my fear of disappointing others also kicked in. But where was all that? That was all in the brain. That was all in the brain. So truth is not, or fear is in the brain. Fear is in the brain. And so when you're confronting a truth that's coming up within you, let me tell you, truth also too is not always easy. Truth is not always going to feel good. and our be favorable, be what we would choose maybe on our own. Sometimes truth is what we need and not what we want. Sometimes truth is what we need and not what we want. And just like, if you're going trick-or-treating or you get a bunch of candy or something and your mom, is like, don't eat all that candy. You want it, you want it, you want it, right? But the truth is, you eat all that candy, your teeth gonna fall out, okay? Right? So in this way, it's like the, we can, truth is not always gonna be comfortable, but it's definitely gonna be what's good for you and what's right. And it's not always going to be what we want, but it's definitely going to be good for you, what's right. And so sometimes we'll come into truth, or truth will come to us, and we'll feel that initial fear that's coming from the brain. And from the Christian perspective, some people could say this is where the devil is trying to come in front of truth and confuse you, right? And confuse you and try to tell you, oh, what the truth that you're feeling is not correct, or will try to just misguide you away from the truth so you won't make the powerful decision using your willpower to follow that truth. And so truth will challenge you and present you with a crossroad. It will present you with a crossroad. And in the Ifa tradition, that West African traditions. This is where we talk about the orishas. Maybe some of you know about the orishas. Okay. I learned recently that Eshu is the one who is the bringer of this crossroads. When you're in a point in your life, anytime when you have to make a decision, left or right, going this way or that way, following truth or following not truth, feeding the white wolf or feeding the black wolf. Okay. Then you're confronting the spirit of Eshu. And Eshu is not a decider of this for you. Eshu's responsibility is only to give you the choice. And so where you decide, Eshu will always just support. So if you decide to go in a way that is wild and not good for you, you'll just be supported in that. If you decide to go in a way that is good for you, you'll be supported in that. So that's from a more African deity perspective as well. But we all have that willpower. Oh, we all have that willpower. Hello, hello, hello. Hi. But yes, we all have that willpower to make a decision to follow truth or not follow truth. And sometimes following truth takes a lot of courage. Let me say that again. Sometimes following the truth takes a lot of courage because what is the sacrifice or what is truth asking us to let go of or to accept? And sometimes truth will make us, yes, do a lot of that. I was doing that yesterday. I was death my ass off, shaking all the energy away. Yes, sometimes truth will make us have to make a decision that challenges us so much and brings a lot to bring the fear loud, to make the fear loud, so loud to us that we and where we either choose fight or flight, and where we either choose fight or flight, or there's a middle option. We choose to get silent and still. You always have this choice. The best is to get silent, right? Um, but I wanted to say that because whoever's going to be listening to this, I have a strong feeling that they're going to be younger people, and so who's coming up in this time of so much confusion, and where some people are telling them what's truth, and and not to listen to their intuition, and that is never the way to go. Your intuition knows exactly what to do, no matter what anybody's saying. Now, here's another thing. Um, the Sometimes the sacrifice and reward of truth is losing everything that you have known. By following truth, sometimes it means or requires that you lose everything that you have known. And that could be scary. I understand that could be scary because you don't know what's in the future. You don't know what's going to happen. But that's where trust and faith comes in. That's where trust and faith comes in of the higher source, of that divine source that's in all things, that has your back. Okay. And so sometimes when we're faced with this choice of truth or not truth, it's really a test from the divine in a sense to see, or not even a test. It's just an opportunity to make your faith even stronger. It's an opportunity to make your faith even stronger. And so that and so that would mean, how much more do you want to be blessed? Because I don't know if anybody's seen online, there's this wonderful picture or video I love online that's so cute and really describes in a simple way God's love and God's tests sometimes and how to strengthen our faith and trust. There's this little girl who has an old teddy bear, an old little tiny teddy bear, and she's holding on to it. And there's a father in front of her that's saying, "Here, give me, it's time to give up that teddy bear. It's time to give it up. It's time to let go of it. We got to donate it." And behind his back, she can't see it, but behind his back, in his other hand, is holding a big, giant, even better teddy bear that he's going to replace with the other one. But first, she has to trust him. She has to let go of what it is. And I'm sure there's so much fear, there's so much, going on there. So this is how faith can be. This is how the divine works. When you show that you trust and you let go, the divine always meets you. Whatever you lost for following truth, remember that. Whatever you lost for following truth, you get back tenfold and even better. Period. You get back tenfold and even better as a reward of listening to your intuition, listening to the divine, and taking that, using that courage to go in a way that you're not sure what's going to happen, you know. Um, Go away, Ryan. So just so you know, the other last thing I wanted to know, how I wanted to say about how you know what truth is. Um, it's I noticed for me that truth has been something like a knowing, just a knowing um, that you cannot really shake. It's like and I know everybody's experienced this in some way, where it's like, I just know something's off with that person, or I just know not to go in that space. I don't know what it is. You don't really have a logical explanation about it. There is no brain involved with truth, right? There is no brain. It's all soul, it's all spirit. And then when the mind starts to come in, then that's when you can use it for decision to make an agreement to actually carry out action in following that truth, or we can use the mind to convince us out of truth and confuse us out of truth. But truth has always been for me, it's a knowing. We just know I should take this course. I have a good feeling about it. It's going to be good, right? That's truth right there. Um, and then the last thing I know, I feel like when I hear, I went to, I grew up like the first 4 years of my life Buddhist, and then also in and out of the Christian church after that. And my grandpa was a Buddhist, and we lived with him at one point, so we would always go to temple, Nam-myoho Renge Kyo, with the beads and all that. He had a whole shrine in his house and everything. And I love that foundation. And then after that, I was in and out of the church Christian, not something consistent, but still I picked up on things. And I remember being in church, even as a kid, and I would watch and listen to the pastor. And you know what's so interesting? Some of the verses, some of the things that the pastor was saying, I couldn't logically understand things as a child. What do we? But I could feel some of that was true. And then there was a lot of things I could feel that something I was like, something does not sound right here. Something does not feel right here. And I was 10, 11, 12, younger than that, even feeling that way. Right. But as a kid, it was, you don't speak. So I didn't say nothing about it or challenge it. I just listened. But what I definitely knew what was true, there would be older ladies in the front seats, older ladies in the front seat, like old, like 70s, 90s, and they would be moved, they would stand up with whatever little energy they have, they would stand up when certain verses were spoken that I also too felt were true. And they would dance and praise the best way they could. And then sometimes they would also pray. And sometimes they would pray when the pastor was saying something. And for me, it just didn't feel right. The pastor was saying something that did not feel right, but I could feel those women in the front praying. And I knew that was truth. What they were doing was truth. Whatever they're praying about, I could feel that. And however, and so that right there is another way to know what is truth. No one had to tell me anything, you know. Um, So, and if anybody has other ways in the comments and email, whatever, please, the way you've known how you know truth is and how you come about to know what truth is, please share that because this is definitely going to be something that really, really helps someone who's on that journey of trying to figure that out, trying to understand love within themselves, trying to understand truth and get divine help. So I appreciate your help and assistance in whatever way you do. Um, And then for anybody who has a question, you can also send an email to faithprayercircles@gmail.com on that. There was the only last thing I really wanted to say before we go into prayer was, and then also if there's anything else you wanted to say last two, Brooke, um, was just the way that I came into knowing what truth is. For me, it first came with feeling so terrible. I felt I just didn't feel good within me. Like, and I had this such pain in my soul and my body, and I had so much pain in my mind, really, primarily, actually. I felt insane. I felt not good. I felt just like, especially I was having babies and I was young, and at that time, all at once my childhood gunk wanted to rise in the stillness of being an at-home mom. Let me say that because in the stillness, that's when you'll definitely hear truth. When you are still, truth will come up, whether it's a truth you don't like or you like. In the stillness of being an at-home mom, all of my childhood truths and things that needed to purge out, clear out of my mind started coming up. And I didn't know what the heck. So I was emotional on that. Then at the same time, I was at home mom and I was having babies every couple of years. So my hormones were going out of whack. I didn't know what the heck was going on. And at the same time with that too, since 16, I was on a birth control. And when I decided to stop birth control at 18, 19, that's when I got pregnant. But that change of so many years on that birth control, my body was still trying to re-regulate from that too because birth control, I wanted to stop it actually because I noticed it was making me so angry and it was just making me not feel healthy. So I stopped it. But then because of that, I became pregnant. So my hormones were just like, whoa, doing wild stuff. The stillness of being at home brought a bunch of childhood stuff up. And then at the same time, I started to get awakenings, meaning I started to become heavily aware of God, of the God goddess of faith. I started to become inquisitive and wanted to know, well, how do you pray? How do I make a relationship with God in that way? All this stuff. I started to do that and I started to explore. And I started to ask questions of the divine, like, okay, I hear that you listen to prayers and da, 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 da. Well, we need diapers. I remember being in a car looking at the moon one time, like, we need diapers, and then sure enough, diapers showed up like a day or two later, and then some, even more than diapers showed up. And I remember feeling in my spirit and my body like my prayer was answered. And so, anyways, from there, it started the way I learned what truth was. It took a process of at least 7 years. And it started by I had a pain first. I had a pain in my brain and my heart that I really wanted to get away. So I asked. So I just asked, and I was desperate to try anything. And I said, okay, the Christians say, these people say, I hear all this other stuff. I'm so confused. I don't know which one to listen to, but I hear everybody saying there's a God. So if you hear me, reply, and and it started from there. Then yoga. yoga started. I also was eating really trashy at the time too, so that contributed to the way I was feeling. I was having bacon and sausage, like 3 pieces of bacon in the morning, 3 pieces of sausage in the morning, plus eggs, plus the cheese with the ham and the eggs, plus the waffle with the syrup. Like that was breakfast. And then I also was having for lunch, whatever leftover fried chicken, maybe a burger, pastrami burger, the French fries, this, that. Then for dinner, I was maybe having 3, 4 pieces of fried chicken and this and that. Like that was daily food. So I had no nourishment to me too. So that was also making me wild, you know. Um, but yeah, so I started to feel so much in pain that I was feeling desperate. And so I started to look into yoga. I heard about yoga some way, I don't know, something online came to me and I started looking into it. Okay, it helps, so I'm gonna try it. I started to look into healthy eating. Okay, that helps. I hear they say it helps. Okay, I'm gonna try it. And meditation. Okay, I'm gonna try it. And it took a process of 7 years to just trial and error, experiment, experiment, experiment. And as I was plant medicines as well, plant medicines as well. You know, going into our ancestral ways of purging, of clearing the body, rejuvenating, utilizing the medicines of the earth to literally heal the sickness, right? And so, trial and error over these years is what cleared that pain. And in that process, though, all of those tools, those modalities for healing were also allowing clarity, allowing more space for me to hear truth because the truth was clogged up so much with all this gunk, with hormonal manipulations, with the energy of the past, with the pain, with the sorrow, with the with the with resentments, with the junk food, with lack of exercise, which helps move. Exercise helps move energy. So I had so much stagnant energy. And so literally the truth was so muffled, I couldn't hear it because it was all clogged by these things. And these practices, yoga, healthy eating, meditation, and other things, sitting with a shaman, or like, people who help um, use powerful indigenous medicine to help clear out some subconscious things out of the brain as well. It it cleared the way so I could hear truth well. It also helped me activate parts of the memory in the cells that our ancestors passed down to us, and they were dormant. That memory, that information, that divine wisdom that is in all of us. It's not in anyone special, it's in all of us. It, it was activated in me. It was it was it was like a seed that was like literally doink 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 poked alive, you know. So you have this information in you. Whoever's watching, you have this information in you, and you can access it if you wish. Um, so be blessed, be blessed. Anything left you do want to share? Thank you for listening, because I know I can go on and on.
I just enjoy listening to you and your stories, and I learn more about you every time, which is always a joy.
Yeah, likewise, likewise. Well, I love you. I love everybody here. Stay on, Brooke. I wanted to still chat with you, but I
Mhm.
love you. I love everybody who's listening, who will be in the future on the prayer circle,
Mhm.
and who has been and who is here presently. I love you. I love you. I love you so much. And I pray, Heavenly Father, Mother God, Yahweh, the creator of all things that is
Mhm.
within us and around us. I pray that you please surround every single prayer warrior and every prayer warrior who is coming into their faith and who is developing their faith and is discovering the way, is creating a better way. I ask that you
Mhm.
please hold their hands with so much love, help them with clarity, guide them, assist them, lift them up, help
Mhm.
them see very clearly the difference between truth and the false reality. Please help
Yes.
them see it, feel it, know it with their whole soul and their whole
Mhm.
being without doubt so that they could follow you with a faith that is
Mhm.
an unshakable, doubtless faith. Um, and I just pray for their protection along the way. I pray that you just have mercy on their spirit as they're moving through anything that's
Mhm.
difficult, any parts of it that's difficult, because we both know, Brooke, that journey is of following your truth takes a lot of courage, takes a lot of courage. Courage is the word. And
Courage.
it's not easy. It takes a lot of courage and it is not easy, but the rewards are so
Mm,
amazing. And we
mm.
get rewarded little bits by little bits, like breadcrumbs along the way too. And
And
the more
then
that
your
we,
tribe appears. And
then
the
your
more
tribe
you follow
appears.
truth, the more you end up being able to find who you are at the core
Mhm.
and be loved for that person, not for performing, not for anything. But when you're in your truth, then the people who love you for your truth just love you.
Pop up. They just love you for the way you authentically are, and you don't have to be nothing else but that.
Mhm.
So thank you, Heavenly Father, and thank you, angels. I ask the angels to be with these young kids, these young people. I'm saying young, like I'm not young. I'm young, but the ones that are younger than us, y'all, I'm 33 right now, okay? But the ones that are younger than us, I ask that you please be with these babies, man. Please be with these babies on their journey to understanding the truth within, to listening to the truth. Help them make the decision to listen to truth without fear as best as possible, as best as possible. I've been feeling very much to pray for the mental health and the emotional health and the mental and
Mhm.
emotional and spiritual protection of our kids as a world. In the last like year, I've been really doubling down on praying for them because the younger generations are really, really psychic and coming into this planet just truly connected already. And so the double down on trying to disconnect them and trying to confuse them has been just getting stronger. And it's annoying as hell. So just pray for our babies. I pray for them. I pray for their mental, emotional health, and the attack that have been happening on their health, because
Mhm.
we know that when you have the water is not fully clean with fluoride or this and that, and there's so, especially here in America, there's so much misinformation on, um, well, there's more information now on how to eat clean, but the culture as a whole is not in full support of a clean diet just yet. There's
Mhm.
not enough people that is in support of it making a cultural norm for people to eat cleanly. It's still a cultural disrespect where people make fun of those who are eating cleanly, who it's still culturally in America at least. I don't know about anywhere else, but in America at least, it's still we're still snickered at, behind closed doors or whatever, when we choose to make these decisions of health. And so I just pray for the children, for our kids on this journey, help give them the confidence and the courage that it takes to decide to take care of their health and to decide, Yahweh, to choose healthy foods and information, um, no matter the status quo, no matter what's going on around them. Help them stand strong in that decision of self-care and self-love,
Mhm.
and to help them stand up for others who want to do the same. Please help it become normal to eat healthy, to take care of the brain, to take care of that, and it just be what is actually cool, what is cool nowadays, rather than so yes. And I just thank you. Thank you. And sending so much love to everybody who listens. Thank you to all those who listen to the prayer circle faithfully. Thank you for
Mhm.
those who send messages and send prayers consistently. Thank you for those who share donation in whatever way that you do, whether that's prayer, song, anyway. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for holding space with me. Thank you for holding space with me, Brooke.
Mhm.
I love you. I love you. And yeah, and so may you have just a wonderful day in anything you do, everything you do. And in Jesus Christ's name, I like to pray Krishna, Buddha, Orishas, all of them. I give
Mhm.
praise and I give thanks to our team. Namaste, y'all. Namaste.
And
Yeah. Is there anything last words you want to say real quick before I close out?
so grateful.
Okay. Bless you guys.